Before the pyramids, before the eternal empire, one pharaoh sat on the throne and felt something forbidden to a god-king: fear. His name was Anedjib, and his story reveals the very first cracks in the foundation of royal power. When the great king Den died, he left Egypt stronger than ever. Its borders were secure, its administration was organized, and the idea of kingship was divine and respected. But Den also left behind a problem, a shadow so large that no successor could escape it. Whoever followed him would be judged against his legendary reign. That man was Anedjib. Anedjib came to the throne around 2980 BCE, near the end of the First Dynasty. He inherited a kingdom that appeared stable on the surface, but underneath, the currents of power were shifting. High officials, the viziers and chancellors who ran the country, were growing stronger. Priests held a monopoly on sacred rituals, the very source of royal legitimacy. Administrators controlled the flow of goods and information through their records. The king was still seen as a divine figure, but he was no longer untouchable. And Anedjib, more than anyone, seemed to sense this vulnerability. He knew his position wasn't as secure as his predecessors. He desperately wanted to be remembered as a great king, a worthy successor to Den. So he did something audacious, something that revealed his deep-seated insecurity. He began to reuse monuments and inscriptions from earlier rulers, especially his celebrated predecessor. On countless stone vessels, his royal seal was crudely carved over the names of older kings. This wasn't honoring tradition. It was an act of desperation. Anedjib was trying to borrow a greatness he hadn't yet earned, hoping that by placing his name on their achievements, some of their glory would rub off on him. But instead of cementing his legacy, it exposed his anxiety for all of history to see. The most telling evidence of this insecurity is a famous inscription that depicts Anedjib celebrating a Est festival. This was one of ancient Egypt's most sacred royal ceremonies, a jubilee meant to rejuvenate the king's power and legitimize his rule. But there was a rule. It was traditionally only celebrated by pharaohs who had reigned for 30 years, a testament to their longevity and stability. Anedjib, however, ruled for a much shorter period, perhaps only a decade. He didn't qualify. So why did he claim to celebrate it? Most historians believe this festival was purely symbolic, or perhaps even fabricated entirely. It was royal propaganda, designed to project an image of strength and divine favor where there was only doubt. For the first time in Egyptian history, we see a king using the state's symbolic tools not to celebrate genuine power, but to disguise its absence. During Anedjib's reign, the subtle shifts in power became more pronounced. Central authority, once absolute under kings like Den, began to slip. The influence of court officials grew as they managed the day-to-day realities of the kingdom. The carefully constructed idea of the king as an infallible, untouchable god began to fade. The elite of Egypt started to see the man behind the crown. Egypt wasn't collapsing, not by any means. The system was still strong, but the absolute, unquestioned authority of the pharaoh was no longer a given. And in the world of ancient politics, power hates uncertainty. Anedjib's reign introduced that uncertainty into the very heart of the monarchy. His legacy was ultimately a damaged one. When archaeologists discovered his tomb at the royal cemetery of Abydos, they found it was modest, almost an afterthought compared to the grand burial complexes of his predecessors. His reign left behind no major architectural innovations, no timeless monuments, no records of glorious conquests. His name was even actively erased from some king lists by later pharaohs, a practice known as damnatio memoriae, the ultimate condemnation. It was as if history itself was trying to forget him. The judgment of his successors was clear. Anedjib was not a king to be celebrated. He was a king to be moved on from. But this is precisely why Anedjib's story is so important. He teaches us a crucial lesson about ancient Egypt. The eternal kingdom wasn't just built by the great, confident kings like Khufu or Ramesses the Great. It was also shaped by the fragile ones, the uncertain ones, the kings who struggled. Anedjib's reign was a wake-up call for the entire system. It showed that kingship could weaken, that the balance of power could shift, and that the concept of divine rule needed constant work and reinforcement to survive. Egypt learned from his failure. The kings who followed him, like his successor Semerkhet, would react to this perceived weakness with even more aggressive displays of authority, setting the stage for the next phase of Egyptian history. In the end, Anedjib is not remembered for conquest, for monuments, or for greatness. He is remembered as a warning, a quiet testament to the fact that even a man crowned as a living god could be haunted by the simple, human fear of being forgotten. If you enjoy these deeper dives into ancient history, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because the story of Egypt's rise wasn't smooth or inevitable, it was fragile, human, and fascinatingly real. Thanks for watching.